Iran is on fire. Iranian people are coming outside on streets against the ruling regime for the economic crisis. Although the protests started in small sizes around the country, especially from the bazaars, they are claiming some kind of reform in terms of uh, challenging the economic crisis, which is uh, kind of imposed by US sanctions in Iran. But the people are now coming out to see the regime is gone. The Khomeini is gone. Why? It started because not only that US doesn't like the regime, it's because the Iranian regime, the revolution, has imposed strict laws on people and especially on political dissidents. There's no space for the political opponents in Iranian society. There is democracy, but the democracy is not a kind of open one. This is a prescribed democracy, like you can form a party, but the party manifesto must follow the spirit of the revolution. So the main problem is Iranian people, Iranian politics has failed to redefine the meaning of revolution. A revolution cannot stay, or a revolution doesn't happen to keep the spirit forever, because time changes, people's minds changes, demands changes. So what is needed is the revolution happened against the Shah, and it was seeking the removal of Shah. Once the removal of Shah is done, so Iranian revolutionaries needed to open the door of multi-party democracy and parliamentary elections. But there are elections, there are parliaments, but the candidates and the parties, they only can stand for election if they support the regime's mandate, and if the candidate is cleared by the Guardian Council. The Guardian Council check their moral things and their alienation, their alignment with the spirit of the revolution. So you cannot go against the revolution and then you can do politics, but it doesn't mean politics. It doesn't mean parliamentary politics. It doesn't mean parliamentary elections. Elections means everybody can take part. Every party can take part. Parties, they have their own mandates, and the mandates are not prescribed by anybody. It is decided by the member of the parties. And people have the right to choose the mandate, means the party, and the party will run the country. This is the true sense of democracy and parliamentary democracy. And as Iranian revolutionaries, they wanted to stick to the spirit of revolution of 1979. Now this is 2024. So there were realities. On that realities, the revolutionaries responded and a revolution happened. But the same reality doesn't exist in 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027 or 2028. So the realities changes, and that's why parliamentary democracy, and that's why open parliamentary democracy, which allows every single people to form political parties, form their own committees around the country, own manifestos. They do have the chance to have their own ideology, to propose the ideologies and changes the program to the people, and if the people vote for them, then they form the party. But the regime has stick to some specific ideology and that make the regime a rogue regime and imposes people on the regime's choice. So you cannot go beyond the regime's choice. But there are also complained by the Iranian regime that the protest is ignited by and orchestrated by Israel and USA. Yes, it can happen. So it's not about that Iran has enemies. Israel has its enemies. For example, there's a country, Moldova, it has its own enemies. So Moldovan people, Moldovan government has a preparation to tackle the enemies. So every government should have a preparation to tackle the enemies, and every government has enemies. So, but in the meantime, the people of the country should be allowed to speak, to congregate, to assemble, to talk, to protest. And if there is parliamentary democracy, if people are allowed to talk, then there will be no problem. When people are not allowed to talk, then there is a problem. And Iranian regime should understand it. And not to stick to the spirit of 1979. It is not 1979. And parliamentary democracy must have a space to form independent political parties on the basis of their own ideology and to allow them to speak for their ideologies, to have their manifesto, to allow people to take part in elections and to allow people to vote for their parties and to allow the parties to form government, and the government will run the country. So this protest is really a very, very widespread one. Let's see how the regime will respond to that. But there are very little chance to bring back the Shahs, especially the crown prince and her mother, the queen, Farah Pahlavi. So as Iranian people doesn't want to see another despot, as it's true that the Shahs were ousted from the power, from the throne, because their despotic standpoint, their despotic rule. So Iranian people doesn't want that also. At the same time, Iranian people wants what they want: freedom, they want liberty, they want parliamentary, participatory, inclusive democracy, and that is very important. I think the Iranian regime should open the door, and they must talk to people, they must listen to people, they must adhere to their expectations.